Hey everyone, welcome into a new edition of the program presented by Novig. My guest this week, Dalmar Ali, the new head coach of the Somalia National Basketball Team and also an assistant coach at LIU under Rod Strickland. Let's get to my conversation with Dalmar. This episode of the program is presented by Novig, the peer-to-peer sports prediction market with no house, no hidden fees, and the best odds in the game. Whether you're a casual fan or a sharp trader, Novig lets you play smarter, win bigger, and make sports picks in a whole new way. And it's available in over 35 states. Learn more at novig.us/Woj and use the code the program for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. So let's welcome in Dalmar Ali, the new head coach of the Somalia National Basketball Team, and in his day job, an assistant coach at LIU in the Northeast Conference. Dalmar, it's great to be with you. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. It's a great day, man.
Well, absolutely. And I want to start with this new national team assignment. It caught my eye for a lot of reasons. But to take on that national team job now for Somalia, your own background, you have Somalian roots. You grew up in Canada, and now you coach college basketball in the States. Walk us through, Dalmar, how you landed the Somalia national team job, and what do you do when you take on an assignment like that? Where do you start?
Well, honestly, it all started with just having, conversations with previous people that were in charge of the Somali Basketball Federation. Went back to Minnesota about 2 years ago, met a lot of the Somali community there, very big basketball community there. Met some people, and then, a couple months later now in September, I get a call and I was told that, there'll be change upstairs. They want to bring back Somali basketball back to the golden eras in the 80s and the 70s. And they asked me, would you be interested? We would love to have somebody who's in it every day and be able to connect with a lot of the younger players and the new generation of players. And I told them, man, I'm very highly interested. Let's have more conversations. Obviously there's two sides. You want to meet somewhere in the middle. And once, we got to that and they told me, man, the job is yours for you to take. I was like, man, there's no question asked. I definitely, want to be the next one in charge and trying to bring the nation back to where it is.
Tell me about that. You mentioned, spending time in Minnesota, in that Somali, the Somali basketball community, the Somali community there. Tell me about it and your roots there and your relationships and how big basketball is in that community.
So before I even get to the whole part of the Somali community in Minnesota, me being born and raised Toronto, Canada, Somalian, my parents were born in Somalia, immigrated here in 94. There was a huge community in Toronto, Somali community, where everybody was big on soccer and basketball. It originally started with soccer. Everybody was, into soccer, but there was a small group of gentlemen that were pushing Somali basketball. And then knowing just in general, just like Canada basketball and US basketball, there was much more talent out there in the United States that were Somalian. And you would always hear about it. And then you would go to these annual tournaments every year called Somali Week. You would go there, you would see the soccer tournament going on, the basketball tournaments going on. And just seeing that as a young male coming from Canada, seeing those guys play and just be like, man, I want to be in those tournaments one day. I want to be a part of that. Push forward to the future. I finally show up in Minnesota years after. I was about 28 years old when I went there, and I'm having conversations with these people. I'm like, wow, like this community is phenomenal. There's so many, people like me that live here, and just having these small little programs for kids, for basketball, for soccer, just uplifting the youth, just trying to carry what was left, before the civil war in Somalia, and having it here in North America in a place where they call home. it was just like, it was a great experience. I met a lot of people, built a lot of relationships. And truth be told, if it wasn't for me meeting those people, I would not have this opportunity to lead the nation today.
You talk about that background in Toronto around, there's been this renaissance in Canada that kind of tied in with, you can go back to the Vince Carter era. That changed Canadian basketball. Kids grew up, kids who might have grown up want to be hockey players, soccer players. Vince changed that, and that's been well documented. And then sort of that next chapter, of the team Masai Ujiri put together with the Raptors that won and eventually won a championship. And Masai Ujiri, who's, built out his Giants of Africa program that has been, I've spent a lot of time with, I've come to Toronto in the past to go to Masai's events around the Giants of Africa events. And even last year we were up at an event they had. And I think it brought together both Canadian basketball and then basketball on the African continent. And the impact that Giants of Africa has had all over the continent with coaching, facilities. Pascal Siakam will tell you the impact Giants of Africa had, or Basketball Without Borders, which I think is an extension of that, that opened doors for him. It's opened the doors for so many, not just players, but coaches to come up through that system. How about the timing you had of being in Toronto at the time? Masai, there isn't just this Canadian basketball renaissance, but it's very tied into the African continent.
No, it's I feel like I'm one of the luckiest human beings just being a part of that era. Me being a big Toronto Raptors fan growing up, man, it was tough, man. I watched Chris Bosh leave. I watched Vince Carter leave. Vince Carter put a passion in us like no other. Being from Canada and knowing that's your only basketball team and you have one of the most electrifying stars and he decides to walk out on you. He gave me my love for basketball, and he also put a dagger in my heart. But, as you get older, you understand. But truth be told, Masai Ujiri is the reason why I really found that this orange ball that we hold every day can really change someone's life. And just watching him come into Toronto and just change everything and bring us an NBA championship, it's different because, I look at him as one of us because not only as a Torontonian, but he's from the continent of Africa. I see him, he wears the Nairobi, Kenya wristband on his wrist. My mom, she was born in Somalia, but she was raised in Nairobi in Kenya. She speaks Swahili, and, seeing that, and when you hear his accent, I can hear it from my mom's family side. I'm like, man, he's one of us. And to see him be passionate about this thing and try to show that people that no matter where you're from in the world, you can be successful with this thing. So he put a fire in me in 2019 when we won that thing. And I'm telling you, from there is the day I said, you know what, I'm going to use this orange ball and I'm going to change people's lives with it.
Chime is changing the way people bank. It's a fee-free, smarter approach built for real people, not your traditional banks that rely on overdraft charges and monthly fees. What makes Chime different is the control it gives you. With MyPay, you can access up to $500 of your paycheck anytime, and even get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. And with Chime, you won't deal with overdraft fees, minimum balance requirements, or monthly fees. Your everyday spending actually turns into rewards and real financial progress. You also get reliable overdraft coverage, tools to help build credit history, savings that earn up to 3.5% APY, and customer service rated 5 stars by USA Today. And now there's the new Chime Credit. Credit building with your own money, cash back on everyday purchases, no annual fees, and no interest. With qualifying direct deposits, you can earn 1.5% cash back. We all know someone who would benefit from something like this, and switching to Chime only takes a few minutes. Chime is not just smarter banking, it is the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. Again, it takes just a few minutes to sign up. Just head to chime.com/Woj. That is chime.com/WOJ.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services, a secured Chime Visa credit card, and MyPay line of credit provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. MyPay eligibility requirements apply, and credit limit ranges $20 to $500. Optional services and products may have fees or charges. See chime.com/fees info. Advertised annual percentage yield with Chime Plus status only. Otherwise, 1.00% APY applies. No min balance required. Chime card on-time payment history may have a positive impact on your credit score. Results may vary. See chime.com for details and applicable terms.
You know, a lot of us grew up thinking therapy was hard to get into or something you only turn to when things are really falling apart. The truth is, therapy is just a tool. And when people actually get access to it, it makes a real difference. The hardest part is often finding the right therapist, getting appointments, and navigating insurance. That's where Rula comes in. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is around $15. Rula connects you with licensed, vetted therapists based on your needs, so you're not stuck guessing or on wait lists for weeks. You answer a few questions, pick a time that works, and you could be talking to someone as soon as the next day. And Rula supports you from start to finish, booking, scheduling, even checking in to make sure you're making progress. It's real care from a real healthcare company, not just another directory. Thousands of people have already used Rula to finally get the care they needed. Don't put it off. Go to rula.com/Woj and get started today. That's RULA.com/WOJ. Go to rula.com/Woj, take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. What has been the reaction of people you know in the Somalian community to you taking on this role as the national team head coach, and their enthusiasm for the platform this gives Somalia basketball?
Man, I'm gonna tell you something, Woj, man. I thought it was gonna be big, but the reaction that I got was nowhere near what I expected. Somalian people are very supportive of their own. And, we haven't had an NBA player yet, but we have a couple kids that are playing Division I basketball at a high major level. And every kid knows their name and households, just the support you get from these people. And my Instagram was out of control that day. My Twitter was out of control that day. And I'm like, wow. And it's not only just people liking the picture and commenting, it's the DMs that I got of support. Whatever you need, we got you, whatever we can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out. And then the crazy part is, it's just the amount of people that you didn't know that were out there that want to be a part of something like this. I'm still going through a lot of my DMs and just seeing kids who I never even knew were out there that wanted to be a part of something, people that wanted to help but didn't know who to reach out. So, man, it was phenomenal, man. And just seeing all those people, it put so much more pride in me and wanting to make this thing go as far as I possibly can take it.
For you, the timing of the announcement at a time when, I'm sure certainly many people in the Somalian community and many people in lots of other communities in both the United States and Canada, where you're from, want to be supportive of that community, want to find ways to be helpful. And this announcement comes at a time, I would imagine, that was probably particularly meaningful.
No, definitely. Because one thing I'm going to say is, the Somali people are defined by so many things. And one thing I'm going to say is the Somalian people are very supportive. The Somalian people are very hardworking, and the Somalian people will rally behind you no matter what. And, already just there's only a handful of us that are coaching Division I, maybe 2 or 3 of us. And the support we get from all over the world, it's insane. So knowing that the time that I received this job and to be able to lead my nation, the support that I was getting before, it's like 100x now. And I know that because that's who they are. The Somali people are very supportive. They're very hardworking. And no matter what, they're going to be by your side through thick and thin.
You talked about putting the program back together and kind of reaching back to some of the glory days where, there's some history with the Somalia National Team. Luol Deng, former NBA star, and has done a remarkable job in building out the Sudan national team. You saw they took the U.S. right to the wire a couple summers ago. Is is there a model there for you? Is that somebody you'd want to reach out to and talk to him about and that national team as you piece this together and try to build out an infrastructure and teams?
Truth be told, seeing him, what he did with South Sudan and just watching the Olympics that summer. And, as much as everybody loves to cheer for Team USA, the Olympics comes to a point where everybody's cheering for their country. And, obviously I'm cheering for Canada, but it was that slight joy, seeing someone come so close to doing something so special, especially from the continent of Africa. And, I give my praises to Luol Deng because he's done something that, a lot of people wouldn't be able to do. And it's that pride for your country, for your continent, for your nation that he took with him and helped build this. And obviously 1000%, I want to follow that lead and be able to have conversations with him. We're somewhat a little bit of opponents because we're in the same zone when it comes to qualifications for FIBA, but definitely want to follow that blueprint. And not only him, but just seeing how Masai was able to construct what he did with the NBA and Giants of Africa, just trying to connect everything together. There's so many kids that are playing Division I or playing pro NBA overseas that I believe Masai has his stamp on just because of things like NBA Africa, Giants of Africa, and also just my experience, working in Division I. I've been a part of two great coaching trees. Right now I'm with Coach Rod Strickland, 17-year NBA vet. Learn from him a lot, forever grateful for the opportunity. I'm here with him to learn and see how he builds a program. And then I was with a legend, Leonard Hamilton, who's been doing this for a very long time, who has connections to so many people, and just seeing him turn, Florida State from when he got there to where it is today. So I try to take a piece from every direction and put it together and try to build something special for the future.
Let's go back to, you work for Rod Strickland at LIU. You guys have really emerged as one of, the really tough, however we term it, mid-major, low mid-major programs. You guys are in the Northeast Conference. Last year you won 8 straight down the stretch, got to the conference semifinals, and that NEC tournament. And then, this year early on already, you've won at James Madison, you beat Missouri State, you beat Lehigh, you lost by a bucket to a really good Winthrop team in a league in the same year where Central Connecticut's beating Boston College and Rutgers. And I'm going to guess the NIL between both of your teams probably don't equal one player on a lot of those teams. It's really remarkable. Working for Rod, to me, he's like, there's like a generation of basketball player. I always say Rod Strickland is your favorite point guard's favorite point guard, right? He is.
Definitely.
Like guys you loved in the NBA. Michael Ray Richardson was a little bit like that. He just passed. But Rod was electric. And both the college level and obviously in the NBA. And now, he worked for Cal. He worked for John Calipari. And a couple stops before going to LIU. But what you guys have done there with resources that are limited, there's probably some parallels to what you're walking into with a national team where how to work with limited resources.
No, definitely. And that's one of the biggest things is, taking that job and just seeing where we're at LIU. And, Coach Strickland, I had a conversation with him and, we talk about it all the time. Limited resources, very, very, very limited. And you look at it like, man, how do people get it done? And, a lot of people ask questions. How'd you get this kid? How'd you get that kid? Well, it all starts with relationships. It all starts with who how have you dealt with people in the past? We're able to get a lot of good kids. We have a lot of talent on our roster, and a lot of it has to do with, relationships and who coach knows, who I know, who the other coach on the staff know, and just being able to put together something that's going to work and people believing the vision. When I first got here, I think it was Coach just finished off his first season. He got the job late in August, so didn't really have a time to put together a roster. But once he put it together, every year it was bit by bit we were climbing. I know we went from 3 wins to 7 wins to having 18 wins last year. The goal is to even be higher than that this year. And, people see the vision, people understand. And so it went from, you're trying to get pieces. Now people are calling, hey man, got a kid for you. So it's not as easy as just, writing a check and saying, hey man, I got this amount of money for you. It's about selling a vision, a dream, and letting these kids know that, hey man, I can really change your life if you come here and we can get you to where it is. And coach has been phenomenal, man. Just seeing him every day for the last 3 years, I've tried to be a sponge and absorb as much as I can, and forever grateful for the opportunity because I'm learning, man. He was in the NBA for so long and he's coming in here, the level we're at and mentoring these kids. It's bigger than basketball because, a lot of people from the outside just look at this thing and say, man, it's just about basketball. Man, he doesn't look at it like that. It's on the court and off the court. How can I better you on the court? How can I better you off the court? And just seeing that and learning from him and being able to absorb that, I can use that every single day with the national team and just build from there.
When you don't have much NIL or in some cases any NIL in recruiting, how different is the process? Is it a situation where often you've got to wait out the marketplace and wait out for a player to maybe realize the opportunities that he thought were out there aren't out there? Or is it as much about just finding guys maybe other people aren't valuing and seeing value in players that others are? Maybe especially at the high school level now because fewer Division I schools, everyone's recruiting the portal, they're recruiting international, and maybe there's more opportunities to find some guys at high school that maybe wouldn't have been in the Northeast Conference or available to LIU 5 or 6 years ago.
So when it comes to us, a lot of people, make the joke, you guys start your recruitment in June, July, when everybody gets the cream of the crop. But we kind of take it at a different approach. We like to look at kids and see how they would fit us and what we're trying to do. And obviously, there's so many kids entering the portal. So as much as it's a downfall for college basketball, it's actually a good thing for us because there's so much options to choose from. So when it comes to us, we try to figure out who fits our system analytically. Are they a plus? Are they a minus? We look at a lot of statistics, and then we look at our conference. A lot of people at the bigger conferences are looking for the much taller guys, the 7-footers, the 6'11s. You can play with a 6'6" big here. You can play with a 6'5" big. So what we do is we try to find pieces that fit the puzzle, and then on top of that, we, like I said earlier, we really work our connections. And my whole life, I've been working with nothing. So, just being the underdog story, it doesn't change here. So I come in here with the mindset of, hey man, I'm gonna go swing at the biggest fish, and I'm gonna try to catch it. And if I don't, it's on to the next one. So we were able to bring in some pretty talented guys in here that come from much higher levels than when we are, and they believed our vision, they believed our identity, and they wanted to be a part of it. And as you can see so far, we're 5-4. We're 5-5. Wish we could be 7-4 right now. Lost a couple, but I believe it's going to be a special year for us here at LIU.
Just like a coach looks for every edge on game day, Novik gives fans the edge when they make their sports predictions. With no house and no hidden fees, Novik delivers the best odds all the time. It's the smarter way to back your instincts. Learn more about Novik, America's #1 sports prediction market, at novik.us/Woj and use the code THEPROGRAM for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. Dalmar, one question we like to ask our guests on the program is about the future and what it's all going to look like. The future at your level in the Northeast Conference, LIU and Central Connecticut, Lemoyne, it's a really good basketball league, basketball schools. What does the future look like at that level? What do you imagine it's going to be? You saw a school, St. Francis, in your league that said, hey, we're packing it up. We're going to go Division III. I imagine we're going to see more of that in some instances. What do you see ahead for schools and programs at your level?
I'll be honest, you hit it nail on. It's a very concerning thing, when majority of the conference doesn't really have any NIL funding, even with revenue share. It's very hard for our conference and schools in our conference. I could speak mainly for ours. There's definitely going to be more schools that move down. It's not sustainable. And, we say this saying that a lot of these bigger schools use our schools as farming systems. You know, they're watching the cream of the crop in this conference, and, you know, in the next year, they're going to be gone. You know, there's a lot of guys that left. We were the only team that I feel like was lucky enough to bring back 3 of their best players from last season. We brought back our first team all-conference player, our second team all-conference player, and one of our freshmen that was all freshman. And it's crazy.
No, that's truly amazing to do that. It says so much about your program that those guys, obviously there were opportunities out there financially. Those are all really good players. It says a lot about what you guys have there, that they wanted to stay and be a part of it, when obviously maybe financially and for some other reasons, in that case, almost every guy in college basketball is moving up.
No, that was one of the best conversations I've ever had with any players that I've coached personally. Just seeing them come into coach's office and just tell them, listen, you know, we want to be here. We have unfinished business. That it puts so much joy in your heart, because you know you left a positive impact on their life. Having the opportunity to leave, there was money on the table from many institutions that wanted them, but they were like, hey man, we love Coach Strick. We love what we have here, and we got some unfinished business. So, you know, you left a good footprint on them. So it brings good joy. And to go back to what I was saying in terms of us being able to bring back our talent, it sits at a point where a lot of people are not going to be able to do that. We might not even be able to do that again. You know, it gets to a point where sometimes it may be too good to pass up on, you know. So it's going to be tough, you know, unless, you know, some new rules are brought in and things are changing, or, you know, funding just magically shows up for the smaller schools. It's a little bit scary to see what holds for these smaller conferences.
Yeah, Dalmar, my guess is that they're probably not going to legislate anything to make it easier at your level, at our level. And so we're all going to have to do what you're doing, is figure out who you are, how it works for you, what's your pathway to success. And it's really remarkable what you guys have done at LIU, what you're doing. And then, you know, obviously now this runway you have with the Somalia National Team. Wish you all the best. I'm excited you sent me some Somalian National Team gear. I know it's on the way. I'm going to go check over at our post office, and I'm going to wear it proudly. And I really appreciate you taking the time out, Dalmar.
No, thank you so much for your support, man. You know, I could tell you one thing, man. As a young Somalian man growing up in Canada, man, there's at least a couple 100,000 of us, man. Growing up, we used to have your notifications on Twitter. You used to tweet our best players and, man, be like, man, Woj bomb, man. If you only knew the influence you had on our generation too, man. It was a pleasure, man. It was an honor. Thank you for your support, man. And I wish you guys the best this season.
Absolutely. We'll catch up down the road, Dalmar.
Sounds good, man. Yes, sir.
Thank you again to my guest this week, Dalmar Ali, the new head coach of the Somalia National Team. We'll catch you next Wednesday on a new edition of the program.